Hey, hello, William.
Hey,
Welcome
Jay.
back to our show.
Yep.
Today is March 8th. Actually, just a few seconds ago, I just got one question. Now, you are as a consciousness, you know that you are the universe, that one timeless universal consciousness, and then thoughts appear and disappear. And some of the thoughts which appear is also about the body, right? Like paining, hunger, or it's very cold, it's very hot, or whatever.
Yeah.
So then, obviously, then I mean, from the outsider, it seems that you take care of the body. Like if it is very hot, you switch on the AC, or if it is very cold, you put on one more layer, right? For an outsider, any mind looks
hmm
like okay, he is taking care of the body, so there is body. But from your point of view, obviously, like everyone, you have to respond and looks like you take care of the body. And the second thing is like maybe you are doing exercise just to take care of the body, right? Giving the right
Yeah.
food and the right exercise. So as consciousness, what is this body, and why you take care of this?
I mean, to get to the root of like why, I mean, that's to get to the root of like why are we here?
Uh, no,
Because
or
because to come up with an answer as to why you do
no, no,
anything.
no, yes.
Yeah.
Just yesterday, I was reading one of the, hearing one of the videos of Sarva Priyananda. Actually, I intuitively know asking why for the existence is a wrong question, but what he says is you can find the cause for anything, but you cannot find the cause for the causation itself. You can go back in the chain of asking question why, but
Right.
then
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like
right,
if you carry back your action back to the origination of where that action came from, like it's always pointing to the same point, which you can't get an answer to.
right. So mm, uh, maybe let me rephrase my question. So how do mm, your consciousness treat the taking care of the body part? Like it's not that like why you take like it's not about the why, but then your maybe point of view of like what is body, why should it be taken care?
See, it's doing it by itself. Like it's the consciousness is creating the action. It's not me, the individual, that's deciding that I'm going to exercise today or I'm going to eat healthy.
Hmm.
It's not my decision. There is no person who's deciding.
But
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 what?
but how is the decision happening?
It just happens. Why does there have to be a person that makes the decision?
So it is not even
See,
a
what we do is we objectify things within the mind, but everything's objectified after it actually happens.
right.
Like when you stand up, you don't like decide, hey, I'm going to stand up and go do something. You just stand
Yeah.
up.
Okay.
So there's nobody that's making that decision. The body just stands up and goes and does something. In the same way, everything's just happening in that same way. Whether you make a decision that, hey, it's time for me to exercise, it's just another standing up.
Sorry, can you repeat that? If the body decides to do exercise?
It's the same thing as deciding to stand up, but the mind comes in afterwards and says that I'm making this decision to go exercise. Like you're not, you don't think that I'm going to have the thought that I'm going to go exercise. It just arises.
Yeah.
So where is it arising from? What's the origination of that thought? I mean, it may be the past. It may be a chain of thoughts or a chain of experiences that you've had, an illness that you've had, or some other conditioning that created this moment of a thought arising saying it's time for me to exercise. But you can't look at it in a vacuum and say, I'm having a thought that it's time for me to exercise and I'm deciding, because it's a whole chain of events that led to that action. And where do you splice it? Like, where do you stop the decision? Was it because somebody, wounded you when you were a child about how you looked, and like you're still trying to work through that by creating this body image today, and I'm exercising. Like, where do you cut off the decision? Where is it originating from? And that's why you become consciously aware, because you start to look at the chain of events that's leading to this entire, like, idea of a decision. Like, you're never deciding anything personally. Your whole history is deciding, and the entire universe's history is deciding. But we have this idea that we're here separate from everything else that's happening. And it's in that separation that the idea of ownership, of deciding, comes into the mind.
Yeah.
But that's not the reality. There's so many different variables, like trillions of variables that are embedded into every decision.
Right. But then how does it happen that it is this Jay's decision? Like, how does this ignorance then start? I mean, came into existence.
Because somebody conditioned you into believing that
The
you
society.
were, society conditioned you to believe that you were separate from everything else that's happening. But that's only occurring within the mind. The separateness is your idea of creating a separate sense of separateness from the rest of existence.
Right. This is only happening inside this 8 billion minds which interact with each other, which
Yeah.
which hypnotize each other, which reinforce this idea on each other, and which will have social pressure, peer pressure between each other. So
Yes.
this is a network of minds only then.
Yeah.
A mind is formed because of other minds, and then mind gets this value system and its autobiography because of other minds. And then while this mind is being influenced by like nearly 8 billion minds, and this also influence the other 8 billion minds. So this is a world of 8 billion minds then.
Yeah. Or you can say it's a societal mind, as they call it. It's one mind, because your mind is dependent on all the other minds.
Right.
Like, everybody that you're interacting with is creating, your sense of what you need to do or what needs to happen or who am I. Like, you only
Hmm.
know who you are because of the other people. Like, they've told you
Yeah.
who you are. They've told you
Yeah.
who to be. That's where you're watching your, social media, and trying to be like other people, or trying to outperform other people, or put up an image of who you think other people want you to be, or it's all like a circular reference.
Sorry, did you say searchable reference or search for reference?
Circular.
Circular reference.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Because that each mind is playing off of the other minds.
And then these minds are implemented in the brains as brain circuitry.
Yeah.
So then, at least are these brain circuitries real?
Yeah, but it's mostly like an unconscious, reactive mode of, like, operation. You're not, like, I think I tweeted something out the other day about, like, the past is thinking. Like, your past is thinking.
Yeah.
if you have this whole history of
Yeah,
your experiences and your interactions and your relationships, and
my whole
like,
autobiography.
yeah, that's what's
How I,
producing your thinking. I mean, not I'm not talking about an intellect where you're trying to figure out a math problem. Like that's obviously
mm,
not dependent, but your psychological like idea of who you are, what you need to do, or like where you need to go in life, like all your projections are it's the past projecting the idea of what you need to do. And if your past is kind of like muddled up with a lot of like difficulties that you went through throughout your life, then your projections, like, you're trying to escape that past. Like the past is trying to escape itself. That's why we have so many difficulties, because it's like an unconscious,
mm,
expression of everybody has these goals that they need to achieve,
yeah.
but it's not really them personally like thinking about it. It's an entire history just surfacing.
Of whatever tens of thousands of years of human
Yeah,
recordings, influences.
yeah. Like Krishnamurti, Jiddu Krishnamurti talks about being able to see that wave, the wave of humanity, and to
Mm,
be able to step out of it consciously and say that I can understand that this is just the past creating all these thoughts.
mm.
And
And
once you
yeah.
see it, you can step beyond it and not get pulled with it, because everybody's getting pulled along
Mm,
as the thoughts. They think that's me having my thoughts creating this idea of what I need to do or what's happening to me, and it's mostly unconscious.
mm. So the thoughts appearing is also because of this social, global, unconscious mind. I don't know if I
Yeah,
can call it as mind.
yeah,
I see. And there was never an individual.
yeah. There's no individual there.
But
It's
but
just it's that amalgamation of mind.
mm,
Just it's branching off into 8 billion different
minds.
directions, but they're
Yeah.
all flowing back into each other as well. It's like a that's why I said it's like a circular reference, because
Both,
you're bouncing
yeah,
off of other minds.
both physically and mentally. Because physically, like, uh, I can make a cup of coffee and give it to my wife. Like, it's physical. So
Mm-hmm.
physically also there is interactions between these 8 billion minds, and mentally also there is if Trump tweets something, there might be blood, for example, in some part of the country.
Yeah,
So mentally he does something, I mean, through the mind language and obviously a tweet, and then million people sees that and somebody decides, okay, I have to do this, and there might be blood. So
yeah,
it's not only like physically we are interacting, in mind also we are interacting. But then at least these minds in a sense are separate. Like, thoughts appear in this screen and thoughts appear in that screen. But at least the physical world, it can be easily proved that it is like united.
yeah.
You cannot at least chunk it up, right?
Did you say it is united or it's not?
It is physically, we can easily prove there's only one earth, like
Yeah.
one world physically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But in mind, and then we share, okay, yeah, yeah. So, but then somehow mentally we say, okay, this is my cup. Only I own it. I own it, not anybody else, right?
Yeah.
Even though physical world is
Yeah.
one, mentally we chunk it up.
Yes. That's exactly what happens. All division is only occurring at the level of mind, because you've created the sense of like myself and the other.
Right, right. When you say vision, I mean the perception, at least perception is run by the wholeness, the
Mm-hmm.
universal consciousness. The perception like this cup, the universal consciousness have created this cup, has kept this cup physically, but then only when the mind perceives it, even the perception happens because of the universal consciousness or the wholeness. But then, and even a thought comes, so far so good. But in the thought, J appears.
Yeah.
My cup, I have to do this. I have an autobiography. This is what is my 40 years. Next 30 years, this is how it should be. That
And
demand.
it's all happening just within Jay's mind.
Ah, okay. So this 8 billion minds happening and whatever this physical world is happening is all beautiful. It's natural. It is universal play. No comments on it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
even thought comes, 8 billion minds are there. It can be 10 billion, it can be 1 billion minds, whatever, no problem. A perception of the physical world happens. That is also universal. 8 billion perception happens. That's also run by the universe spontaneously here now. But
Mm-hmm.
and that thought appears, but inside the thought, when J have got, and then as a part of that, J appears. Like in a chessboard, this is king. That labeling appears. This is rook. This is elephant. Yeah, elephant, and this is your chariot, and then this is your soldier. When that mental model appears, then king appears. Then this value system comes that king should exist. Like anything can be sacrificed, anything can happen. And then it becomes like my bishop, my rook, my knight, my pawn,
Mm-hmm.
and this happen. And then I have to protect. And then king, I should never die. So all this value system comes, and then the friction starts.
Yes, that's the conflict, the comparison,
Conflict, comparison. I have to survive, the others has to die.
Divi- division.
Division, separation. Yeah, and then these my where some societies teach not only I have to win, the enemies has to lose and die.
Yeah.
My survival
Yeah.
is not sufficient.
Yeah.
Others has to die.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. It's all just ideas that have come into play to somebody's mind. Like
Which,
all wars start with a thought.
yeah, and then support of a million countrymen who
Yeah.
believes, okay, I belong to this country. I have
Yeah.
to follow
And
my leader.
yeah, and in essence, there is no such thing as a country. Like,
Yeah,
you go up into space and you look down at the world. Where are the countries? There are
yeah,
none.
yeah. So,
It's all a fabrication, like that only exists within the mind.
but at least the idea of the country is a shared fiction. All 8 billion people believe, okay, this border is my country,
Yeah, but
right?
does that make it any better?
No, 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 no. I mean, like a simple example is a crow doesn't even, a flying crow doesn't even know where is the border. It will just
Yeah,
fly, right? So it is surely a human mind made shared fiction.
yeah, and people
There
will
is,
die.
yeah,
Will die for the flag, like for a piece of cloth. They will die.
and kill.
Yeah, yeah, and kill.
At least dying is a personal decision. One, at least have that freedom of the body and mind. But killing like 100 other people or a billion other people, hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's I guess a lot of different factors that come into play, and that's why I said like you can't look at anything in a vacuum. Like
Hmm.
I was listening to somebody talk about like cities and the reason why there's like difficulties in cities. It's because there's like not enough space. There's not enough space for the amount of people that are there, so it creates more conflict because people don't have the space to themselves. And like when you confine people, so many minds within like a tight area, that there's not enough physical space, which creates like a narrowness within the mind of like you're too close to all these different minds, and it's just conflict because you're caught within a confined area without enough space for your own existence.
William, actually, I have interesting insights about the cities and the people living based on what I read with J. Krishnamurti. So, my understanding of what JK says is, see, your mind is a socialized mind made by all other interactions, and then you
Mm-hmm.
live in this place called city, which is actually made by the minds and hands of other people. I mean, using the hands mostly, right? You build a house,
Mm-hmm.
you drive a car, whatever, right? So your mind sees whatever the other minds has created. Like how I have to drive, how the steering wheel has to appear is decided by some other mind. The house,
Mm-hmm.
how the door should be there, how the key should be there, everything is decided by some other mind. So this mind just learns it and does it. So inside the city, it is everything is created by the mind. So for the convenience of the mind. So
Mm-hmm.
now you should go outside the city at least to relax out of your mind, because
Mm.
this everything you see, some mind only has done it. It was a thought and then it was built and then you're using it. So it is just another mind and your mind. So it is
Yeah,
all
and that's why I guess like going into nature is good because you're stepping out of that mind.
right.
That mind that mind created like field that you're stuck within.
Is
You can
not there?
actually you can actually breathe outside of your own mind, outside of your mind and everybody else's mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nature which existed like 6 billion years, it is pristine, like
Mm-hmm.
it's original. In a sense, it is more real than at least what our mind created.
Yeah, and you're stepping back into your original nature, which is
Yeah,
beyond the mind. So that's why it feels good.
right, right, right,
You're stepping outside of that conceptual box that you've confined yourself to, which is unreal. Like that whole box is unreal.
right, right. Which is reinforced in the city or the village by million other mind.
Yes.
Yeah, and that is why in India, like traditionally over thousands of years, obviously anywhere you're in a village or a town, you walk for 30 minutes or 10 minutes, you are starting into a jungle or a forest.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody can escape in all of India a few hundred years
Yeah.
ago. You just walk out and then you are in nature. You are not corrupted anymore, right?
Right.
So being alone and going outside, and then even when somebody's older, like going to the Himalayas, which is the northmost border of the country, is considered a spiritually commendable thing.
Yeah, and that's why like solitude is important because you're re-establishing your original nature, which is without all these different minds kind of
Yeah,
interplaying within your own mind.
yeah.
I mean,
So
but you also have to be able to integrate. Like you can't just go
right.
off into a. I mean, yeah, I guess you could. There's some people that have no problem with just being by themselves. Like
Mm,
it's kind of what I said that you don't know how an awakening is going to manifest. It may manifest to somebody that's very quiet and to themselves, and somebody else can be very active.
right. And then you are saying awakening. So that is a specific thing happens to a specific mind.
It's consciousness becoming aware of itself.
Oh, that's it. So there's no magic here. So somehow this physical universe and the 8 billion minds came into existence, but then they were always consciousness. So
Mm-hmm.
one not even a physical mind, a brain and this representational mind knows that its reality has always been consciousness. That is
Yeah.
enlightenment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It is just a recognition that for the universal conscious that it was always so for the mind.
Yeah. There's nothing new that's like discovered. It's just a realization of what has always been here.
Okay, so that is why enlightenment is not even an achievement. It's dropping your false images.
Yeah, and even the dropping of the false images it's part of it as well. It's part of the play.
Yeah. I mean, it, it is like that puppeteering, right? It runs these 8 billion minds, and one puppet just drops, and right, okay. I mean, it doesn't make any difference from the consciousness, the one universal consciousness point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Cute.
Because I think that's the big problem, is to see how to stop and see how interconnected you really are to everything else, and stop looking at yourself as making decisions like separately from everything else. You have to like kind of like turn around and see where is this decision coming from? Like, what had to have happened for me to be able to decide? And you'll see there's all these different trails leading back, hundreds of trails of different people or different environmental factors or different like experiential factors.
Okay, William. See, if you say there is like near infinite number of variables for this to happen, then how come if I commit, okay, I'll meet at like 10 a.m. At this time, people can make it happen? Looks like it is an impossibility, right? But then how come when my watch shows 10 o'clock, I'm there?
That's just the way the consciousness is. It's able to do that.
But then it behaves in a predetermined ways then.
No, it's just appearing at that moment. You have to look at it, life is momentary. Like there's only the now moment. So every single thing that's happening within the entire world is creating a picture moment by moment.
But William, let me give you this example then. Okay, let us consider this Eiffel Tower, right? Thousands of people, I mean, they planned and then step by step they implemented, like, each of those nut and bolt and those rods, and they have to assemble over like many, many years. And even now, like after like many, I mean, more than 100 years, it exists. So now, how is that momentary? Like, okay, even before
because
we,
it's
yeah,
because even the building is happening moment by moment,
yeah,
and it's disappearing. There is no history. It's only there in the moment, in that state. Say they were building something,
yeah,
it appears, say, 50% done, and the
right,
next moment it's 51% done. The
yeah,
50% done version no longer exists.
right,
It's just a projection. It's a
yeah,
project. It's a projection into the now moment. It doesn't
right.
have. It doesn't have. You can't like go back and let me look at the 50% version versus the 51% version.
Fine. But then the question is when 100% is done,
Mm-hmm.
at least it stays for 100 years.
Yeah, but it's not the same one. All the different atoms within that steel or whatever the structure is made of, it's constantly changing. Like you look at it and you see a solid structure, but the solid structure is actually a field that's moving. All those atoms are moving at like a very
William,
fast at a
I'm
very
sorry
fast
to stop
pace.
you. I'm
Yeah, yeah.
sorry to stop you. I got this insight. See, the Eiffel Tower is a label or a representation of the human mind, all human minds, which if physically it is perceivable, even though it is not Eiffel Tower or whatever it is 100%. For the human mind, it need not be 100% same. Even if it is 99%, we are okay. We still say it is Eiffel Tower. The reason how I got this insight a minute ago is because actually from a long time I want to understand like what is a number, right? Actually, numbers
Mhm.
do not exist.
Right.
In the sense, numbers exist only in human mind. The way they came up with this idea is there is one mango and there is another. Let's even take like two similar objects here. One sec, right? See, I have a pen here. I have another pen here. So now they say I have two pens.
Right.
But then where is the two? I can see this pen. I can see this pen. Where is two? This question I had many years ago. And then I realized actually two doesn't exist. Two exists only in human minds.
Hmm.
But if we like, take two plus two, and then if you have a mental model and if you answer four, and then you keep two pens and then you keep two pens, there are four pens, right?
Hmm.
Which mind thinks is real, right? So I had that insight many years ago. And then what I realized is, let's take the example of a mango, right? Now there is a mango here, and let us say there's another mango. Now, how do you define one mango? Definition of one mango itself is impossible because actually measurement itself is impossible. All measurements are approximations because
Yeah.
let us say a mango is 100 grams. But
Hmm.
then, can you measure? Maybe it is 100.001 grams, and your scale is insensitive to measure that. So it is impossible to see a mango which is 100.0000000, like thousand zero. Nobody can define.
Yeah.
So you can't even define one mango. Then how the hell can you define two mangoes and then
Hmm.
three mangoes? So somehow I got this insight that uh, numbers are like 100% representation. It is human created, but then this representation uh, represents and predicts the physical world closely, precisely. That is why we use maths, I mean.
Right.
So
Right.
but then it is 100% mental model. Numbers
Hmm.
don't exist in the physical universe. Objects only exist, but then we model the objects in the mind and then we add up, you do mental maths, and then it validates. Okay, I had two pens yesterday. I bought one more pen. Now, even with my eyes closed, I can say like I have three pens. So, uh, when this mental models come up, this physical universe is ever changing, but the mind always approximates it and says, even though that is a Eiffel Tower built 100 years ago, even though every split second it's changing, but still for the mind, it is an approximation. Yeah, like let us assume there was trillion atoms uh, when it was built before like Second World War.
Hmm.
Now, maybe there is like minus, like there is million less atoms in Eiffel Tower now. But
Hmm.
today also I will say if somebody in some book it is written that is Eiffel Tower and there's a picture and then I see today, I say, yeah, that is Eiffel Tower today. But then that Eiffel Tower i- is only in human minds. And then the labeling and the recognition happens, but that poor Eiffel Tower is changing every second.
Yeah.
But for a human
Exactly.
mind, it's an approximation. It's not a precise thing. Yeah. See, for a
Yeah, but
human mind, yeah,
the whole thing to create the approximation is like
yeah.
that's like the initial spark to create the entire fire of like the conflict within the mind is you're creating an approximation for everything. Like I'm creating the approximation for Jay. Like
Yeah.
Jay's changing constantly. Like your body is constantly changing. You're not who you were. 7 years ago, you had a completely different body. But
But
I'm giving you the approximation of Jay.
but
You know?
this approximation is sufficient for social interactions.
Yeah. If you knew what it was, if you knew that that's what it was for, if you knew it's an approximation for
Yeah.
something that's not separate from everything else, that you're just using it to interact with. But
Yeah.
it's you as the consciousness. You'll have a very different view of interacting yourself with yourself
Hmm.
as opposed to interacting with the other.
Hmm.
But that only comes with like conscious awareness that there is no division, that the division is just an approximation, like you said. It's just an idea.
Yeah.
It's a label on something that's not separate from you.
And some of them are concrete, some of them are helpful for survival. When I say some of them are concrete in the sense and some of them are fluid is, um, like an Eiffel Tower is like more physically concrete than say a flower or a wind blowing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or yeah, so some of them stays for 100 years, some of them like a cup of coffee. It is concrete for like what 10 minutes or whatever. It's warm. If I expect the warmth of a coffee, then like in 10 minutes it's not even warm enough for me now, right? So some of them are concrete for a longer time and some of them are concrete for a lesser time. And William, see now the mind has to know the difference between a snake and a worm, a, right? So that I mean,
or a snake in the rope, as they say.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The
A
fundamental
classic,
problem of
a
mind.
classic example.
Hmm.
Yeah. So once you see it, like once you see kind of the silliness of what's happening, like only then can you move beyond it. Like you have to stop seeing it as so serious. Everybody's taking serious, which is just this play of consciousness. It's all one play, and everybody's taking their roles way too seriously.
Hmm.
But that's the way it has to be because it's a dualistic experiencing.
Yeah. So yeah, well, this non-dual want to get entertained. So they
Yeah,
started the whole
yeah,
thing.
yeah, exactly.
Beautiful. Few minutes ago, when we were discussing about, solitary, being solitary is helpful. Uh, and then, yeah, just outside the city in nature, sitting and just observing is helpful than sitting in the basement of our houses, I
Mm-hmm,
think, because at our home, even before you close your eyes, you are surrounded by mind-made things.
mm-hmm.
It is like prison. It is like mind is imprisoning oneself, and then if you're sitting there, then like it's an artificially induced forced solitariness,
Yeah, that's
right?
why like a lot of like Zen practitioners will sit and face a wall. They'll face the wall
Yeah.
to reduce the amount of like distraction.
Actually, William, that's I had this question. I think Bodhidharma sat facing a wall for like 7 years or like a
Mm,
very long time. Then I was thinking, like, what sort of meditation is like? You are wasting your life, is what I thought.
yeah,
Obviously, from a mind's point of view, at least you should go out. You should like do some strenuous meditation or whatever Buddha did. Stop eating. Do like great things to know yourself. But then this guy is like just looks at the wall like for like 7 years is what I was thinking. But then, yeah, William, so can you throw some more light on it? Like, how is this helpful?
yeah, because what you come to understand is that's not actually who you are. You're
Okay.
you're not actually the one sitting there. That's like that's the misperception that we have is that the one that, like, say, listening to like a Muji talk, like,
Yeah.
you think that that physical being there is the one that's speaking. It's the consciousness. Like, he knows himself as the consciousness speaking, not as the individual, which everybody else sees the individual sitting there.
Right.
So to sit, in a sense, it's almost what's the word? Irrelevant whether you're sitting there facing a wall for 7 years or you're interacting with other people for 7 years. Because that's not who you are. You're not actually the body. You're not the body there. You're the consciousness that's witnessing the body.
Okay.
And
Go ahead,
I
please.
mean, it may take somebody years to settle, like settle into the idea that I'm here as the consciousness. That's why people will sit and meditate like for years. But at some point you come to realize, like, even the idea of meditation, you're not going to get it through that because you're actually prior to the meditator. Like, it's not something that the individual is getting, but it's by sitting there, you're releasing the idea of what you thought you were, because you're eliminating a lot of the interactions that you may have. Like, that's kind of the helpfulness of meditation, is to eliminate what you're not by kind of reducing yourself into a small space of just me here with this existence without anything else going on.
Right, right, right. Okay. So all those socially induced value systems and ambitions which any
Mm-hmm.
society gives you. Okay, so you go into a silence so that those settle down, those lose their power and value, so that
Yeah,
in that pristine, like, untouched water, you know that you are that.
yeah, because what ends up happening is you shift from the idea that I'm these thoughts that are arising, all these different social pressures,
Yeah.
to see that there's actually something observing the
Hmm.
thoughts. I think we talked about that last time, about
Yeah.
being the space
Hmm.
in which the thoughts are arising,
Hmm.
and realizing that there's something that's always here, and the thoughts are just coming and going. So what's more real,
Hmm.
what's coming and going, or what's actually always there watching?
Right, right, right.
So in meditation, it gives you like a confined area where you can't escape into other things, other
Right, right.
distractions.
Right,
Then
right.
the
This world can give so much distractions, and then
yeah, yeah,
this earth world can offer, this society can offer infinite distractions, I think.
yeah. Especially like now with your phone, like you can be on your phone for
Right?
hours, not
Yeah.
moving, in a completely like lost world of concepts
Yeah.
for hours.
Days, years, lifetime.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because they're speaking of infinite scroll,
Mm.
like Facebook and Twitter and Google News and TikTok. This because every day millions of people are producing content,
Yeah,
and I'm just one guy. I can feed into like every minute, like thousands of people are creating content which is like specific to me. So I can, so they can, the production of the content which is customized for me is like infinite.
yeah. I I listened to somebody. He talked about what am I trying to say? YouTube, like how
Yeah.
YouTube gives you like the sidebar of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
suggestion. So it's basically like kind of looking at your consciousness of what you're interested in, and
Yeah.
offering. It's an offering, and that's the same thing that the mind is doing. Like,
Mm.
it's taking whatever your past has been, and it's giving you an offering of these different distractions.
Yeah.
So you can
And
go, the same way you can go to a suggested video is the same thing your mind's doing to go to a suggested activity.
yeah.
It's the same function.
Right. And at least in YouTube, even when I'm watching one video, there's like 20 other videos which is like in the side.
Similar. Yeah,
Either
similar.
if I'm bored or if this video finishes, I get like 20 other offers,
Hmm.
which is customized for my history. Like it knows, okay, what all does this guy specifically like, and it changes based on the time also. Like in the evening, this guy will like this video. In the morning, he will not like that video, but this video,
Mm.
right? And previous 5 minutes, he has been watching this types of videos, so he will like this types of videos now. It does all those analysis. So,
Yeah, and your mind is doing the same thing for your entire life.
hmm,
It's looking at the past, like what does Jay like in the morning? Like what does Jay like in the afternoon? What does Jay like in the evening? And it's giving you these different offerings.
right.
And you have the choice to keep going with them, like day after day, kind of unconsciously,
Hmm.
or forcing yourself to step out of the distractions and watching the process, like watching the way that the thoughts are appearing, watching what is being suggested to you. You know, a lot of people sit down to meditate and they'll quit after 5 minutes and say, "This is not for me,"
Yeah,
because
yeah.
the mind is just like telling them that this is a waste of their time or you can't
Yeah.
do this. Mind can't be quiet, like, and they're done after 5 minutes.
Okay, so this meditation or staying empty is the anti-mind.
Yeah, it's moving you out of that habitual like pull. It's forcing yourself to stay and stop going with the flow, like with that flow of thought.
Okay, so this is where the Advaita pointers will help the mind, such as neti neti, or
Mm-hmm.
hey, look, it is not a snake, it is your imagination, right? Okay, so maybe now is the time to think about few more, because actually this is question I want to ask you earlier. So, what are, I mean, obviously this is a boring question, but let us try. What can we discuss some list of these pointers, such as obviously the neti neti, and then we discussed earlier. So, which are the pointers, William, helped you to come out of this maze or come out of this matrix, which is created by the mind?
I don't think that there were too many. Like
Okay,
my biggest thing was meditation at first.
like sitting intentionally and deliberately and closing your eyes in one room of your house. That
Yes,
that is what you call meditation.
yes,
Okay, even in that meditation, is there any technique like there sitting in meditation also there is like they say hundreds of techniques and stuff. Like is there any technique you
yeah.
used? Yeah,
I kept it simple.
yeah.
It was just sitting without any expectation, without any like incentive, like having no idea of getting anything out of it.
But then your mind will show you hundreds of desires. Hey, let us do that, let us enjoy, let us whatever,
Yeah,
right?
and you just sit there and watch. You're just the watcher.
Oh.
You're not trying to quiet the mind. You're not trying to do anything other than just to watch.
But William, how did you get this insight like before? Okay, if I sit and watch this mind without accepting any whatever it offers, a
Mm-hmm.
door will open. Like, how did you get that confidence? Because that is unintuitive. That you stay empty, then you know you are ever infinite. Like you stay zero, then you become infinite.
Yeah, yeah.
How did you get
The
to
one
that
thing
insight? Yeah.
the one thing that helped me was like reading a book by Shunryu Suzuki.
Okay.
He has a
Okay.
book called Zen Mind, Beginner Mind.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard of that.
Yeah, and he talks a lot about meditation, about sitting. He talks about like he doesn't just talk about meditation, like he talks about daily life too, to like burn yourself into every moment,
Oh.
like
Okay.
to not hold onto anything.
I see. Okay. So
And something happens within you. You just start to I don't know. You have to have a certain like earnestness within yourself to just sit, and most of that actually usually comes from the suffering that you're actually going through. That you got to such a point of suffering that you're willing to sit and have faith that there's something that if you've read that if you sit, you're going to get to a place of peace. Like, that's what meditation is. If you read about it, so something within you has to buy into the idea that if you sit, even though I'm saying that you're sitting without the idea of getting anything from it, like something will arise out of it. I know that sounds like a paradox.
No, see, let it be paradox. But then, how did William buy into that paradox?
I mean, if we're gonna go down this road, it's gonna be that I don't know. Like I don't know. It's grace. Call it grace. Call it because it's getting back to did I decide to sit down? Like, was there a William there deciding to sit down?
Okay, so it's not even the personality's decision.
Yeah, and there's something to that once you realize that it's actually not you deciding to do it. That's part of the thing that you have to come to understand is that there is no you doing it. And it may not happen right away. Like you may sit down with the intention of, I need to sit down to meditate to quiet this mind, like it's too much.
Yeah.
But something is guiding you along that way. And it's not you, it's, call it grace, call it consciousness, whatever you want to call it, is moving you in that direction. And it's always moving everybody. Like everybody's being moved through their difficulties, through their suffering. They're asking you to stop going in that direction. Like whatever trouble you're encountering, like that trouble is not a punishment. It's a redirection to say, stop taking that route with the mind as you being there as the owner of the process, and to relax out of having the idea that you have any control whatsoever. It's actually the only time that you can relax is to realize that you have no control over anything. Then you can relax. When you think that you have to make the right decisions, then you're going to have the stress and tension of being the decision maker. Like, I don't feel like I'm controlling anything in my life. So now I can relax. But in the past, I was a very heavy controller, like wanted to control everything. And that's why I had like bad anxiety. But in a sense, having that bad anxiety was pushing me towards letting go of control. Like I needed to have that. I needed to have the suffering to get my butt sitting on a meditation cushion. So it goes back to everything is moving everything else. Like, all the suffering that I went through, like.
Okay, but William, from at least the other mind's point of view, one is lucky, but somebody else might get into alcohol or drugs or and die, overdose or like body destruction of the body. Like alcohol also like over time destroys the body. So some people respond to suffering by that universal guidance to know that, hey, don't worry, relax. But unfortunately, many people they can't accept their suffering or trauma. They get into addictions and they destroy their body, both in the short term and in the long term. But then, from the whole universal consciousness point of view, uh, overdose death or alcohol body damaging death is also okay,
Right.
right?
Yeah, because everybody has their like role to play within the consciousness.
And there is nobody.
And there's nobody.
Whatever this everybody's playing is unreal. I mean, it doesn't have an inherent reality. It has got a transient reality, the same
Hmm.
quality of a dream,
Yes.
as much real as a dream only.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. So even somebody that has suffered, when they have the realization of what they actually are,
Yeah.
the idea of that I've gone through that suffering kind of loses its bite. Like
Yeah,
you
it's
don't.
like the dream. When
Yeah.
any day we wake up from a dream, I fortunately remember my yesterday's dream. I was in some place discussing with my old friends and negotiating, and all those things are happening. Then I woke up. I know it is my dream. I'm not going to call that friend and say, "Hey, look, you are in my dream" or anything, right? I'm not
Yeah.
even going to care or bother. Yeah, it was a dream. I remember. Yeah, like many of these scenes, I remembered couple of hours ago, right? When I woke up, I remembered, but then I know it is a dream. So be it.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's
so,
kind of what you get to have that point of view. That everybody's like struggling to make everything better, but it's actually the struggle to make everything better that's muddying the water. Because everybody has their idea of what should be done, as opposed to relaxing and allowing what is already moving all the pieces on the chessboard, to let it move them. Everybody's kind of sticking their hands in, trying to move the pieces.
but then, William, we can't even say, let us say somebody is like, his intention is not to kill animal, be a vegetarian and all those things, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then butchering happens, murder happens, hunting of the animals in the wild still happens, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if even if somebody decides, I have to dedicate my life to educate humans not to kill and go there and blog. See, that is also not okay, right? I mean, it.
Yeah, I mean, it's still reinforcing the idea of separation.
Oh, that is the problem.
Like the best thing you can do is to remove your opinions from the
To
world.
begin with, and then
Yeah,
go with the play. And then if you decide, okay, my job is to stop all killing, then still okay. But then before venturing into that, one has to know that this separation is unreal.
yes.
Okay. Actually, somebody asked Ramana Maharshi, like, what is sin? Then Ramana Maharshi cryptically says, in Tamil language, the mother tongue, whatever
Mm-hmm.
you do is sin. That's it. Cryptically, he says.
Mm,
Actually, then somebody interprets, whatever you do with the idea that I am doing is sin.
right.
Whatever you do without the idea I am doing is like not sin.
Mm. It's just the natural flow of existence.
It's not you. That karma doesn't come to you.
Mm-hmm.
That nothing attaches to you. That is not a sin. But whatever you think that you are doing, and then if you do it, then that action gets attached to you, and then it becomes your karma. Like
Mm-hmm.
then, then he says it's not even good karma or bad karma. Then it is just a bad karma only. It's a sin. Whatever
Mm.
you do with an idea, the idea that I am doing this is just sin. Even if you go and help people, even
Yeah,
if you save an animal.
it's just like removing yourself from the equation of what's happening, and then just allowing everything to be as it is.
Okay.
Like somebody else, like you were just saying, maybe like trying to stop all the wars in existence, like very active, but they're
Yeah.
still coming from that divided sense of self, which is reinforcing the sense of other. Like you're still reinforcing the sense of other. You're still reinforcing the illusion of separateness, even though you're trying to fight against whatever difficulty is happening out there. Like
Hmm.
you can't reinforce the play or the illusion. even though you're trying to fix it, like quote unquote fix it, you're still harming the consciousness.
Right, right. Wait, you said harming the consciousness?
As the illusion, as keep perpetuating the idea that the illusion is still there.
But the consciousness is the root cause of all these illusions. What if the consciousness only wants this illusion to continue and this guy go on whatever
And
hell he
maybe
do?
that may be true. I mean,
Right, right. At
that's
that
the,
level,
the
we cannot say good or bad. From the
yeah.
consciousness play, nuclear war are also okay. The whole earth, like exploding is also okay.
Mm-hmm.
At that point of view, or from that emptiness, anything is okay. This earth will explode and some other earth will come. We don't know. 100 other earths will come. A million other earths will come. No comments, no
Yeah.
questions asked.
Or
Uh,
zero Earths. Yeah.
for whatever time. But then
Mm-hmm.
it will get bored with zero and it will create something.
Yeah. Something may arise another billion years later. Something
Right. Because there's no
arises.
time there.
Yeah.
It is timeless. Billion years, 0 years, no
Yeah. It
comments.
doesn't make
Yeah.
a difference. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Nisargadatta said something about that. He
Yeah.
said about people said this existence has been here for billions of years. He says I haven't even been here for a 16th like of a second. That's that's like too long to represent me.
Right, right. From this point of view. But
Yeah.
then, even before that 6.5 billion years ago, that one existed. Or
Mm-hmm.
that's the only thing which existed and
Yeah.
exists and will exist. Or, yeah, it's not in time. We cannot say anything about that.
Yeah. And that's the comfort that you get once you understand.
Hmm.
You get a sense of comfort with, as Krishnamurti said, like, it's not that I don't care, it's that I don't mind.
But if you don't mind, then why do you care?
Because that's part of the play.
Then Krishnamurti can become a murderer also.
But you have an inherent sense of, once you understand that you're interconnected with everything,
Yeah.
it's yourself. Like, are you gonna go murder yourself?
But I might even murder some. I mean, okay, that
You might,
one.
but there's a lot less of a chance of that playing out through somebody that's consciously aware of what they are.
But William, just because somebody is consciously aware, they might not choose to be for life, and they might also not choose to be against life, isn't it?
True, true.
So they can kill also.
But there is a sense of love that arises for the
But
existence because it's your
love
creation.
accepts murder also, right? Love accepts destruction of the earth
It
also.
may accept it, but it may not pursue it.
Why not? I can't ask why not. So why you are insisting that it is for life, not for annihilation of life? The universal consciousness, see, it doesn't care. It can annihilate, it
I
can
didn't say it doesn't care, it doesn't mind. There is a sense of caring for your creation.
life
Yeah.
for life, is it?
Mm-hmm.
See, this is new to me. So the universal oneness, but this is all illusion. This is all unreal transient, right?
Yeah, but if you paint a picture, you can have an appreciation for the picture that you painted.
So the universal oneness loves whatever appears. And see,
It
my
is
point,
it is
yeah.
it is love itself. We discussed this earlier, I think last week,
Yeah.
about love. Like
Okay.
the sense of love that comes through into the experiencing
Hmm.
is the love of the consciousness. Like if you don't direct that love upon an object and you're there without the idea of yourself, you have that sense of bliss that arises through you. It's well known that bliss will arise through you. when you're not there as that individual. And that's like the perfume of the love that you are, that's the expression of the love. So it's not like you're imagining, just creating this imaginary idea of love. It actually comes through as an expression through the body, as the bliss of knowing yourself.
William, just few minutes ago, I was of this understanding this universal consciousness doesn't care for its creation because we just agreed that it can destroy an earth, it can destroy the whole solar system, and still it will not cry over it.
Yeah, but it's not that it doesn't care. It's just that's the way that it's playing.
See, if it is playing and if it okay, this is what I'm not understanding. I mean, I'm happy to hear this, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
that the universe cares. I'm happy. But then with that, the universe wants this freedom so much that it doesn't even care the destruction of the earth in a split second. I mean,
See, this is the paradox. Like you have to see it both ways. You can't say it has to be one way or the other.
hmm. So the universe cares for this creation, even though it is dreamlike.
I don't know if cares is the right word, but loves the creation.
For it creates to continue in this order, in the way
Mm-hmm.
it is continuing,
Yeah,
whatever the way it is going.
whichever way. Yeah, it doesn't mind whichever way it transpires.
But then,
It's not taking sides. It's not taking sides as good or bad. It's a love of the creation, because good or bad is something that the mind is creating. Like, an animal in the wild killing another animal to survive. Like, is
yeah,
that good or bad? Is that good or bad? It's just what is. It's just what is.
right. Okay, so
But
so this,
you can
yeah,
still love that process even though something dies in the process. Where somebody kills somebody in life, but
yeah,
that suffering that arises out of that suffering
yeah.
pushes people to try to find a way out of the suffering. It's the play of it's the dance of existence. Who's to say that that's good or bad? If you look at it from the standpoint of the individual, yeah, that's bad. But from the standpoint of the consciousness of the evolution of the consciousness to come to know itself, like that may be something that's needed
Why is that needed?
for the consciousness to come to know itself.
Yeah,
It has to have suffering to question its own existence.
but William, see, initially you said this, I mean, the universal consciousness only became this physical universe and then mind and the representational with the intention of Leela or play, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then one thing I heard is also that this universal for it, see, inside this universe, I understand death is going to happen, right? Everything has got a longevity. A mouse can live for like 2 years, a dog can live for 50 years and be 80 years, and an elephant maybe 100 years, right? Everything has got a
Mm-hmm.
life, and there is some order. Looks like there is an order, and then the other point of view is that everything is created moment by moment. This could be contradictory, but then the mind has to accept this if it
Mm-hmm.
is journeys here, right? So even though this is contradictory, let my mind accept this for now. Okay. There is this physical representational world, which has got a humongous order, but then the universe is running the show, but then any second it can decide to shut down everything and create another universe that nobody can question, right? And
Hmm.
inside this, I agree that this part of this play, right? There can be million other plays happening in million other Earths like planets, but in this planet, deaths happen. Okay, that I can agree. I mean, accept as part of this play. But what I'm struggling to understand is this universal consciousness wants to run, cares to run this show,
As I said, I don't know if cares is the right word, but
loves to
love.
runs this show.
Yeah. Why? Somebody that makes a movie loves to make the movie. Why does this have to be different? Why does it have to be impartial to what appears?
Sorry, why it has to be impartial for what appears?
Yeah, why does the creator have to be impartial to what appears? Why can't he
So
have a sense of love for what appears?
whatever appears.
Yeah, whatever appears.
And whatever appears keeps changing also. It is never ever fixed.
Yeah, and it is it. It is the consciousness. It's not like it's not like some separate idea from it. It is it. It's playing all the roles.
Hmm.
It's dancing the dance itself. And when it comes to realize that it's dancing the dance itself, it has like a sense of bliss. Like this is all me. This is all my play.
Hmm.
There is no division. It's all one, unitive movement. And you see the beauty in it of every expression because you're not trying to eliminate like parts of the expression. You're allowing it to be as it is because it's a miracle. Like it's a miracle for that to be there.
Yeah, that is undoubtable. This
Yeah,
universe happening, yeah, it is. In a sense, it's illogical. Like
yeah.
there's no logic. Like there's no need per se at that
Hmm.
level.
Yeah. So you come to appreciate like the beauty of it and
Hmm.
of your own
Hmm.
creation and feel the bliss of understanding that it's all you.
But then, William, a bliss is a mind's, like, see, from the mind's point of view, we know pleasure, we know happiness, we know relaxation and all those things. But this
Hmm.
bliss you are speaking, that is the quality of this universal consciousness, is also you are saying.
Hmm.
Then how can mind know it?
It's not a mind thing.
Oh, okay. You, William, when you are that universal consciousness, then you know that you are bliss. And
Yeah,
then
it's when the mind is empty, it appears.
as bliss.
Hmm.
But then after some time, now William is speaking to Jay, but then how did you recognize that, okay, when there was nothingness, there was bliss, but now I'm speaking to Jay and I can recall that and I'm communicating that to him now.
How did I remember that?
Yeah,
It's just the play of the consciousness. That's what's manifesting through this form. Once it has the realization of what it is,
yeah,
it can communicate to somebody else. This is what has transpired.
inside. Oh, so But William, see, I mean, when we go to bed every time and we are in deep sleep and we come out, there is no
Hmm.
memory, especially of the deep sleep. If somebody asks, yeah, yeah, I slept well, is what we can say,
Yeah.
even though it is an absence, and then mind has zero memory of it. But
Hmm.
then, how can William's mind say, or how can it remember that it was in bliss? Because it was absent at the time.
But the consciousness is there.
But then, how can
You're,
consciousness communicate to this William's mind? It can.
it's one and the same.
They're not
Yeah,
separate.
yeah. The idea of being a separate person is an appearance within the consciousness. When that idea does not appear, it doesn't mean that the consciousness is not there. But the consciousness is still there,
Okay,
and it's self-aware. It's aware of itself as awareness.
okay. But then, how does the mind like know that is what I'm not? I mean, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, you got to remember the mind's not a. It's not a separate entity. It's not a thing. Mind, what we consider mind, is thought.
right?
So when the thought is empty, there's no thought. There's still something there.
Hmm. So,
You call it original mind, is what they may call it.
hmm. Okay.
I
So
think
that.
Ramana calls it dead mind.
Okay, yeah.
But there's something that's still there.
Okay. From the mind's point of view, see, mind gets lots and lots of thoughts as the body grows up from the society, ambitious thoughts, corruptive thoughts, and shared fictions, and all those things. But somehow, William's mind also gets these ideas inside or from the wholeness that, hey, look, you are that, right? And
Hmm.
then it keeps coming. Somehow, some magic happened in William's mind that it exploded or contracted or vanished or whatever. And then the ever existing, always present, that universal consciousness is what speaking through William's mind.
Yeah, and it's what's speaking through everybody's mind all the time.
But
They have the idea that they have personal ownership of it, which is just another thought. So it's like
okay,
you have this extra thought like within the mind that these are my thoughts,
okay. But for
but
William,
that's just another thought.
right. But whenever a thought appears in William's body's mind or in that label, then at least William's mind knows that I've been timeless consciousness, and then I got this thought. There is no separation, and I'm
Hmm.
talking.
Yeah,
I'm
or you have the decision to, like, if a thought arises, just to not go with it. Like, just
yeah,
understand
yeah.
it's an appearance that something from the past has kicked off a thought about something,
Okay,
and you have no interest in it.
right. But William, let us imagine you're driving your car and in an unknown place, you don't know the correct directions, and there is humongous traffic and traffic signal and some rules which you don't know, like there is humongous confusion in your mind and you're stressed out. At this time, see, mind is totally paying attention and perceiving the outside because every second things are changing and you have to follow the rules. Cop will
Hmm.
catch you, and then, right, you don't want to get into all those trouble. So mind is completely here. Even at that time, do you know, wait, no, I'm actually this empty, this reality emptiness in which these thoughts are appearing one by one. That car is in my, is appearing in my consciousness, and then I'm this mind is and is expected to react this way, and then these hands are supposed to move the steering wheel this way. So are you not completely engrossed in your mind, and you might even do mistake, right? Or I mean, in the in the traffic rules, because you don't know, your mind might not know this rule and it can go and hit somebody because your mind did not correctly interpret the traffic rule, right? So when all
Mhm.
these things are happening, are you not only the mind, or do you still know, wait, this is a
You,
thought
you
appearing? Yeah.
you can make the decision of where you're coming from. Like if you need to just be in the mind at that point in time, then you're just in that, you're there as the mind. If
Okay.
you're getting like so overwhelmed with something in
Yeah.
the mind
Yeah.
that it helps for you to step back as the observer or as the awareness of the experiencing to decompress that situation, then you can do that as well.
Hmm.
Like it's like when you're watching a movie, do you sit there and say, I'm the observer watching the movie? No, you
No,
just
no.
watch the movie.
Yeah.
You let go of that idea of yourself being, the separate consciousness for you to have that experience. Like you can kind of pick and choose what you're going to do.
Two questions. One question, see, when William's mind knows that, okay, this mind is not reality, this space is more real, does it make any changes to the body and the mind, like positive changes, healthy changes, good eating habits, like, okay, let me
Uh,
not kill these animals to fill my tummy. So first part of the question is, does it changes the body? And second question is, does it changes the mind and its point of view and some of the its habits?
I don't think you can give a definitive answer. Like I think it
Okay.
depends on whoever is going through that. Like Alan Watts, like
Okay.
he was basically an alcoholic. He kind of
Okay.
drank himself. He drank himself to death, but
I
he was
see.
very consciously aware.
Oh, really? Like, even after knowing that he is that universal consciousness, he drank himself to death?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah, so you don't know how but he enjoyed himself. Like, he enjoyed life,
hmm. I
but he
see.
was more of like a free spirit that he just kind of, I don't know, I can't
Mm.
say exactly what
Right, right.
transpired, but from listening to his talks and like hearing about his life, like he kind of like decided that he was going to enjoy life without becoming like a very restricted person.
Hmm,
Kind
hmm.
of like let everything kind of go the way that it wanted to go. So for that example, like, can you say that that was wrong or was that right? Was that better or was that worse? It's just what happened. For somebody else like myself, like I stopped eating meat.
Hmm.
I just didn't have an appeal to eat meat anymore. Like I felt more at peace just having a vegetarian diet. It just
Okay.
didn't feel right to me to eat meat anymore. So I think it depends on the conditions that are arising for
Hmm.
whatever that body is meant to do. A lot of the teachings and my belief too is everything's like predestined or preordained. So no
Sorry?
matter how like things are
Is it?
predestined,
Is it?
that's I believe so.
But isn't this universe open to go in any direction? Why it has to fix to one direction?
Well, every part is the thing is if you really think about like where you're coming from,
Hmm.
like go back to the Big Bang, like if that's where you want to go back to.
Yeah.
The inertia behind where you're at this point in time is so great and you're dependent upon every other aspect of the universe. So it comes down to like you're more of like a piece in a piece of large machinery. The whole machine is like pushing you in one direction. It's that idea of separateness that we think we can make these decisions on our own and kind of create our own path. But if you really think of the power behind where this body is and where it's come from and what it's subjected to, like it's actually overwhelming if you think about it.
But what if the universe wants to act through me to change the course of the universe?
Well, that's what's happening.
Yeah. So
Every,
how it
every
can be predestined then? Anything can be.
because the universe is, it's just spitting out from itself.
Yeah, that does.
I mean,
See, if 100 things are happening, I can't comprehend and in a without anything in target, right? So there is no
mhm.
target for this universe to happen. It is ever expanding, ever moving, ever changing universe. How can anything be predestined in this chaos? Ordered chaos, by the way.
But where is everything coming from?
Like like from no thingness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So where do you get the independence to
this
move?
happening is independent. I mean, it's not.
How is it independent from the no thingness?
Yeah, it is not independent. I mean, see, it is inside this nothingness, right? This all the things are whatever is happening. It could be in that nothingness, but then the nothingness doesn't decide, right? Like, okay, you should only become this, you this should only become that. It can't decide, and for it, there is no time. Also, it's only
Yeah,
here now.
but there's no you either. It's all
Yeah,
it's one expression.
correct. But how can you say there is a destin things are destined to happen? Neither
How could
William
you
can say,
how
nor
how
the universal consciousness can say that.
how can you say that they're not? How can you dispute it?
Then it is against the fundamental principles of freedom. Then it doesn't have freedom. If
That's
you're
what I
free,
said. I said the only way that you can actually relax into the experiencing is to say that you have no control over it.
right? See, neither Jairam has got control, nor the universal consciousness is predestined. You agree? Okay, we both agree. At least J. William doesn't have control. Okay, but then how can this universal consciousness be predefined and predestined?
Because you have no control. Like you can't make
I
a decision. Yeah, you can't. No part of the consciousness can make a decision on its own,
right,
separate from the entire consciousness.
fine, but how can okay? So you as consciousness are saying this happening is predestined. So I that's what not easy for me to digest because I thought that see the universal consciousness is timeless. It is not even in time. So it just creates here now spontaneously and then dissolves it,
Mm-hmm.
creates, dissolve. Now, how can we say it is pre-designed, like next minute or whatever in timeless, or this is what is going to happen in whatever 100 years or 10 years, 1 year later? How can the timeless universal consciousness predestine?
Because everything's arising out of that nothingness. It's
But it
it's
is
the
not in
it's
time. All
no.
predestination destined thing should be is in time. So how can with timeless def make a decision in time?
We can say in this now moment, it's going to appear a certain way, as opposed
Right,
to saying it's in time.
right. Now moment, now moment, now moment. I
Mm-hmm.
agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Only for the mind there is future and destiny and all those things. But for that there is no future, there's no destiny. You want to destroy whole universe? I'm fine. You want to recreate a new universe? Fine. There is no it doesn't know future. It cannot predict future like human mind theoretically can or believe that they can.
Or you can say that whatever is going to appear as it has to appear.
Who decides it has to appear this way only? Not mind, not consciousness.
Well, it is the
Because,
consciousness. It
but
is
it
the
cannot
consciousness.
decide, right? It just makes it happen, exists timelessly, spontaneously. See, I think predestined is something to do with the human mind. It has to happen like this thing. Tomorrow it should be like this, and all those expectations.
Yeah, so I think
Predestined.
it's a way of saying to let go of control.
That the universal consciousness controls it.
Yeah,
But
you're being
actually, it
control.
doesn't
You're being
controls. It is it.
yeah.
Right? Okay, okay. So you are saying this that it is predestined just to say that it is not J Ram's decision for this to happen. Not that it predestines. Okay, so to contrast this, you are saying that
Yes,
only. Thank
yes.
you. Thank you. Now it is clearer. It's not that the universe sits and thinks, okay, now I want to make this to happen. I want to make that to happen. I want this to be all in blue color. The whole this universe I want to create in blue color. No, it itself is
It's
becoming
just it's
many.
arising. Yeah, it's arising out of that.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. Now one more in spiritual practices, William. In India, I've seen myself. Many people refer themselves as third person. Like it's Jay is saying Jay was hungry yesterday, and so
Hmm.
he ate like rice and curry, and at 9 o'clock he went and met his friend, right? So this actually I've seen like many people like speak like this, and then I'm sometimes confused. Like, you mean like you ate breakfast at 9 o'clock? He said, yeah, like, and he will refer his name, like let's say Jay. Yeah, Jay ate breakfast. You mean you?
Yeah.
Then he said, yeah. So is this, and even I don't know, in self-talk, when somebody's talking internally to themselves, say thinking that okay, Jay has to go, Jay is committed, Jay has to do this thing. This brings a separation with that
Hmm.
ego and the individuality. It's just Jay is just another piece in the chessboard. He's not king. He's just a soldier, he's a knight, he's committed, he has to do his job, right? So, in this mental internal self talk, it helps that separation. And physical external world, sometimes it creates confusion for others, but for the individual, it helps to bring that separation. So, what do you think of this technique of imagining oneself and talking with others, oneself in third person?
I think it's okay. I think it's helpful because it kind of creates it creates that idea of you being there as the observer, which is what you are. So you're kind of creating a false
Mm.
like a go between the individual and the awareness. It's kind of like a stepping stool to
Hmm.
to remove yourself from the identification as the individual. I mean, Jiddu Krishnamurti, like he always
Yeah.
called himself as the speaker.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, he didn't want people to think that it was him. Like,
Oh, even this, okay, from the other point of view, I'm the speaker.
yeah,
But I know that I am the universal consciousness
yes,
appearing now as a speaker, but
yes,
for others, I am a speaker. So if I'm speaking, then you can say, this speaker had coffee yesterday, this speaker met this
yeah.
guy
It's
yesterday.
it's to differentiate yourself. You know, you're further back from the speaker in a sense. The speaker is the communicator, but you are the consciousness behind that speaker.
Wow. Okay, so that is helpful for a short
It's,
term.
yeah, it's to get people to get out of the idea of listening to a person speaking. It's to
Hmm.
create that sense of separation, like you said.
Okay, so it's a helpful technique
Hmm.
for oneself and also to remind others. Look, this is a speaker,
Yeah,
that's a
yeah, like you
listener.
said,
Yeah.
like you said, if it's somebody that's not interested in spirituality, they're going to be like, "What are you talking about?"
I saw you eating breakfast.
Yeah.
I saw you eating
Who
breakfast.
who is the speaker? It's you. I see you. What?
Yeah.
But for somebody that's interested in this stuff, it's a helpful reminder that
Right, right,
there
right, right.
there is no individual in there
Hmm.
speaking. It's a representation of the consciousness.
Okay. I grew up in a state called Karnataka in southern India.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen like even one of my lecturers in college, he will call everybody as Devru, which is a Kannada word for God.
Mm-hmm.
He will call everybody, like students, elders, other professors, everybody by default. He will call God, like, "Hey, hello, God, how are you?" Like,
Mm-hmm.
God, have you done your homework? This doesn't make sense. If you call me as God, then I am the master of the universe. Why are you asking me have I done my homework? Which is a silly question. But then he calls like everybody, like rarely even by name, right? He calls everybody God, and actually this been habit for like lots and lots of people in India. I've seen like everybody, like many people, like they just they don't even call like, hey friend, hey buddy, hey this, hey that. No, hello God,
Mm-hmm.
and then like that is the actual word for God, right? And one of the belief is that, I mean, one of the fundamental, at least social thing is that you have to see God everywhere. God is
Yes.
everywhere. You have to see
Mm-hmm.
God everywhere. So it has become a social habit.
Mm-hmm.
But some of them, if they're lucky, then maybe they'll dig into this question, like, why is everybody calling me God? Like, why am I calling everybody God?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Right?
Robert Adams was very big into that, to
Mm-hmm.
seeing God. You have to see God in everything that appears,
Hmm.
because it is all you. It's you appearing in many different forms. But
And then,
like you said, if it's just a social, like, flippancy, like a flippant, like,
but
way
but
of saying something.
but at least actually recently, even though it is social, see, even unconsciously, if you call somebody as God, you'll not be angry
Hmm.
with him or her, like
Yeah.
not by default. At least you will be consciously angry. Okay, this God uh, insulted me, or this God stole my money. You'll
Yeah. I
slow
mean,
down. Yeah.
it can help. It's a helpful reminder. It's like it's reinforcing the idea of there is no separation.
Hmm. So socially, many realized people brought in this idea to the culture, and like even if you look like Indian names, almost all names are God's name. Like my
Mm,
name is Jaya Ram. Ram is
mm,
considered to be a
hmm.
god, and my father's name is Krishna Swami.
Right.
Krishna is actually a god, but then
Hmm.
interestingly, Swami means like my master, like my
Hmm.
god.
Hmm.
So my dad's name Krishna Swami means everybody making a sentence. It's not a name. Krishna, my God, my Lord. Like,
Hmm.
it's a phrase. Like,
Right.
uh, so you call anybody their name is God. So you will be careful.
I,
Yeah.
yeah. I guess it becomes so commonplace though that you forget the
Yeah.
meaning behind it. If
Right.
everybody's
Right.
kind of using it,
Yeah.
it's kind of forgotten, like, what the true meaning is.
Right. 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 Thanks. But then, at least if it is intertwined, if some of these value systems are intertwined in the society, they're all
Yeah.
reminders,
Yeah.
helpful
It's bet
reminders.
it's
Yeah.
it's better to be there than for it to not be there.
Right. 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 Thank you. Okay. Wow. Uh, Today's flow was beautiful because many of these questions which I asked today, I had over the whole week. Then I thought, okay, I should ask William. I should ask William, right? And
Mm,
I did not, and irresponsibly, I did not even make notes.
mm,
Generally, I make notes. If I get a question, okay, this is a question, I make notes. But today, it has become a garland. Like
mm,
almost all the questions I had the whole week, it just appeared in a like very connected way.
Natural, yeah,
Yeah,
natural flow. Yeah.
wow, beautiful. Actually, I want to go to that image. We have another
Just
14
I have
minutes. Yeah,
to, I have to go at 10 o'clock. So I've got 15 more
sure.
minutes.
I know last week I delayed you by 3 4 minutes. I was
No, but
thinking I
yeah, that's fine. It's
yeah, but I should be mindful of your time. Last week was a mistake. Sorry for that. But today, sure, like on dot or a minute before the dot, I will end this. Okay, so just reiterating from our, is it the right screen? Oh, wait a second. Let me share my screen for a minute. Share, yeah. And just to, oh, one more question, William. What I had is, you know what? Let me even stop the screen and ask. Okay. See now, many years ago, I think in Bill Gates' book, I think Speed of Thought or whatever, 15 plus years ago, I read one analogy. Like all learning happens like a positive spiral, right? So
mm,
you learn something, and then mm, you build on it, and then you learn something else, and then it builds something, and then you go up.
mhm.
Suddenly, you cannot go to step 10. Like you have to know this
Yeah.
thing, and then you have to
I just
know. Yeah.
I just tweeted about that yesterday.
Okay. Can you
I
please?
tweeted about everything being a spiral.
Really? This
Yeah.
question I've been wanting to ask you from many weeks. Let me share my screen and see if I can. Let's go to that thing and
Yeah, I tweeted out. It says the spiritual path is not linear. It is common to have insights only to fall back into certain habitual patterns. We spiral back around to meet these same situations, but this time with more wisdom and less attachment.
inspire.
Stay earnest and committed.
Hmm.
Yes, I use the word spiral.
I see. Okay. This I okay. When I read this book 15 plus years ago, I like this analogy
Mm-hmm.
of spiral because
Mm-hmm.
you have to know something and then some insight has to appear. If doesn't happen, then it has to, then your next insight will not hold on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even this week, actually, I was thinking, this is a Osho story I read again 15, 20, 25 years ago. So one guy in the village goes to the end of the village. There is a sage, spiritual guru or whatever, and he goes and asks, "I want to gain enlightenment. Can you please tell me how this is done? Or can you recommend me a master?" So this guy says, "Okay." Speaks to him and listens and says, "Okay, you have to in the Himalayas. There is this mountain. You have to go. There will be a cave, and then you'll find this teacher." And then this guy, "Okay, this is too tough for me. I can't do this. I'll go back to my home and all those things." And then after then suffering continues, and then after many years, this guy thinks, "Okay, maybe now is the time for me to go." Then he takes a huge journey, walks many months, go to Himalayas, all those things, and then he goes to a cave, and then he sees this guy is sitting there. This sage
Mm-hmm.
was in his village. Then he has this is story told by Osho Rajneesh, and then he has like, "You could have told me there only, like why you want me to wait for so many years and then month-long journey I should walk, and then dangerous path of forest and jungle, and I have to come and meet you." Then then says, "Look, I've been waiting for you, like holding on to my dear life, that I promised you that I will, like, you will be taught this, I mean, you'll be given this guidance. I've been waiting for you. That day or those time, you did not had enough suffering. You are not mature enough to hear this.
Mm-hmm.
You have to undergo those suffering, and then you have to come here, and only then you will be in a mode to listen. The truth is always there everywhere, but you are not ready.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you have to undergo all this pain, and then you have to come here, and then now I'll tell you, now you are ready, right? And then Osho says, like you and then Osho also says, this is also famous spiritual statement I keep hearing. If you take one step towards God, God takes 1,000 steps towards you. But then
Mm.
you have to take one step. If you are zero interested, then it is not going to happen. So, is it required that you have to start in spirituality, get some insight, and then it has to happen, then it has to build over it, and then build over it? Is it that step by step process that one knows? Yeah.
I don't think it's not completely necessary. There could be
Okay.
somebody that has a very deep realization and kind of collapses the whole structure, of that identification. It can be a traumatic event or something that triggers the collapse of the entire identity.
Okay.
I mean, but what may happen after that is the old conditioning may keep coming back.
Right, right, right. They may not even
And
value this,
yeah,
right?
so
They'll say,
it's
hey,
hard.
what? Yeah.
It's hard to give like one answer because, like, some other people may have to go through their suffering. They may have to, like, beat their head against the wall trying to, I don't know, improve
Yeah.
like a
Right.
relationship or something, like trying to keep finding the right person, and they continually keep like getting hurt and hurt and hurt. And then something like
Yeah.
the switch finally flips, and they stop moving in that direction and they start moving towards God.
Yeah.
But they may have to spiral around, like, through that spiral of suffering for a while to be
Hmm.
redirected. But in essence, you're always going in the direction, even though you're
It's a
suffering.
helix. Helix
Yeah.
is like a,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
a positive helix. Like you go up, and then see from the society point of view, when the whole society goes corrupts and destruction happens, then they say it's a negative spiral. But
Mm.
then comes, I mean, from their point of view, but then when it comes to the spiritual knowledge gaining, looks like there's a positive helix, which
Yes.
will, like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Like in spirituality, like the negative is actually the positive because
yeah,
it's pulling you out of
right, right.
the illusion.
Hmm. I mean, going away from objects or ambition and all those, like neti, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
in the socially, the positive spiral is gaining many, many things, but in
Mm-hmm.
spirituality, the positive spiral is like dropping many, many things.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but still, that positive, the idea of the positive spiral is right, and then is right, right? I mean, you have to like know this, and then you'll get another insight because of this insight, you got that insight, and then but
Yeah.
it's all dropping.
But at some point you even see like the whole idea of
Yeah, yeah,
going
everything
through
is,
that,
yeah, yeah,
like that whole
because
structure has to collapse.
you are always that,
Yeah.
right? And then even Nisarata Maharaj says, sadhana is fast ripening to drop.
Mm.
I mean,
Mm.
the whole point of a fruit ripening is to drop.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard that one before, like the apple drops when it's
Right,
ripe.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but then this sadhana, the effort or this earnestness is for fast ripening.
Mm-hmm.
Dropping could be natural, right? It can happen, it cannot happen, but then at least it is fast ripening, and if something ripens fast, it is bound to fall down.
Yeah. It's like you're facilitating the right conditions for the insight to arise.
Oh, even this Advaita people put it bluntly. You don't disturb it. Like you're not even facilitating
Mm-hmm.
it. You are
Mm-hmm.
removing the dirt, which is unreal in one sense, but at
Yeah.
least don't add to this. I mean, don't add
Mm-hmm.
nonsense to this.
Yeah. It's that paradox where you
Right.
have to practice to see the futility of practice.
Yeah, even the
Yeah.
practice at the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah. Even the practice is the dirt. Like that's like the final
Yeah,
dirt
yeah.
that you let go of.
Hmm. Okay. Super. That's it, William. Actually,
Yeah. Today's session flew by.
yeah.
It, It felt like about 5 minutes.
Like, yeah, really. And actually, my
Yeah.
intention is I want to show the screen and then start from
Yeah.
there. We have not even started. I'll keep it for next week. We have less
Yeah.
than 4 minutes. Uh, Also, like, looks like about our conversation, this it takes time to build that rapport, right? Like, I know how to ask you questions, you know how to, I
Hmm.
mean, that rapport is also, I think, we are building fortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Mm.
good. It's like a good flow.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're very good at keeping the conversation like flowing.
Thanks. Wow, this is a humongous compliment.
Mm.
Wow.
It's not always easy to do that.
Yeah. And I have to tell you this Osho story, which is hugely inspirational. I think future audience also will like this. So, a son in the village, when he grows up, he asks his dad, "Dad, teach me your profession because I want to go out in the society." And then that father is actually a thief. He's such a
Mm.
professional, awesome thief. Nobody in the village could catch him yet, ever.
Mm.
But everybody knows this guy is the thief, but then they could not catch him in the act. So the father says, "Look, there is this cannot be taught. It comes on its own. Like, there is no way this can be taught because there is infinite possibilities and infinite thing can go wrong. How can
Mm.
you learn everything? You cannot." Uh, but the son insists, "No, no, dad, you have to teach me this thing because I'll be homeless. I need to find a job, and this is what you do." Then father, okay, agrees. Okay, come with me. And they goes to a house to steal, and then they steal everything. Then the father pushes him inside a bureau, like a cupboard, uh,
Hmm.
and then closes it from the outside, and he runs away. And then
Mm.
somebody, and then there's some noise, and some lady inside the house, the housemaid or somebody says, "Hey, who is that?" And then this guy is inside that box, like, cupboard, and then he has to escape, otherwise he'll be in serious trouble. Then he remembers a cat at the entrance of, I mean, in the house. Then he meows like cat and scratches the wooden wall of that uh, of that closed place. And then the housemaid thinks that the cat should have got caught inside that cupboard. And then she opens the and then she comes and opens the door. Then this guy blows that candle and he runs away.
Mm.
Then he goes and asks his dad, like, you why did you like push me inside that confined space?" And he says, "Look, I told you this is infinite possibility. What idea you have to get, nobody knows in advance.
Mm.
So I can't teach you, but at least you passed the test. You can be a thief now."
Like baptism by fire.
So Osho shows this example. Look, this search is also like that. It's a pathless path. There is no map for this thing. It
Mm.
will come from the inside, and then doors will open, and then leaves will fall, and then you will know. Nobody can give you a path for this thing.
Mm.
If you have that will and power, and if you want to survive, it will happen.
Yep.
Like that.
Yeah,
That's so fun.
it's more about your attitude than it is of anything that you actually do.
Thank you, William. I will